there is a very important point that for many people will be very confusing, most probably, and that is the point of the shadow slash parallel working groups of the RA, the Residents' Assembly. So these bodies sprung into being from one day to the next without any creation, without any official creation of these bodies. They were just made as copy-paste of the bodies of the governing board. Now, in the Auroville Foundation Act, the working committee is already created. The governing board has the right to create bodies to help it with governing Auroville, and so over the years the FAMC, the Funds and Assets Management Committee, was created to oversee all of the finances and the assets of Auroville. And later the TDC, the Town Development Council, was created to move on with the building of the city here. So these bodies are bodies under the governing board and of the governing board. So they are there to help the governing board. So obviously the governing board appoints the members. Because the old governing boards were extremely lenient and let the kings and queens of Auroville just more or less do whatever they wanted. So they have officially in the TDC, there was at one point an adjustment where it was allowed for the Residents' Assembly to propose all of these members. Now that has been changed recently, and so when the governing board, the new governing board and the new secretary started to appoint new members to these groups, which are actually their own committees and groups, then the rebellion faction, the kings and queens of Auroville, they just said, no, we don't accept these appointments. For us, they are not the real ones. We appoint the people that we want to these bodies of yours. Somehow. It's ridiculous, of course. It's completely delulu, but what to do? So suddenly, the people who they had appointed became de facto out of nowhere a parallel group. They created a parallel FAMC, a parallel working committee, a parallel TDC, a parallel housing group and housing board and whatever. All of these things were created out of nowhere with no procedures, nothing. Just from one day to the next, they decided, well, we want these people to be the members of these groups. Since we cannot have them on the real groups, we'll just have them as shadow groups. It's completely absurd, of course, because it's like claiming that I am the Prime Minister of Belgium, which I'm not, and then saying, well, I still am somehow, even though I don't have any function and power. I'm not able to decide anything because I don't have the power of that function. So that's exactly what they did with their groups. They don't have any power to take any decision or implement anything, and still they claim to be the real groups. Now, in the Auroville Foundation Act, the RA, the Residents' Assembly, is spoken of very, very little. There's not even a full page. The PDF document that I have is 13 pages long. It's not very long, but it's a law. So it's not very long, and 6 pages out of the 13 are about the practical kind of things, because obviously the act was created to take Auroville out of the hands of the Sri Aurobindo Society and take it into the hands of the central government of India under the Ministry of Education. So there are a lot of these legalities for the transfer from the SAS to the government of India. So that's 6 pages, and there are 6 pages about the governing board and how it relates to government and the government involvement in Auroville. And then there is 1 page that speaks about the Residents' Assembly and the International Advisory Council. So you can see already the importance of these things just by the space allotted to them. So in the portion about the Residents' Assembly, the functions of the Residents' Assembly, you can see point 19. If you look at the lowest part, point 3, for the purpose of carrying off its functions, the Residents' Assembly may establish such committees as it may consider necessary, which shall represent it in relation to the function to be performed by the governing board. So already these committees are in relation to the governing board. And these committees that they now claim are created according to this point 19.3 from the Auroville Foundation Act were not at all created like that. They were just copied out of the governing board committees. So they have tried in court to enforce their committees as the only legal ones, which is of course quite difficult and absurd, because legally it's obvious they cannot prove how these committees, how these working groups came to be, and how the governing board working groups are not the real ones. So Hemant has challenged the working committee in court and said they are not the real working committee. We are the real working committee, which they lost. It's not. The court didn't agree. The judge didn't agree at all with what they said. So also, Hemant didn't want to appeal it, and now Vali has appealed it. But we can read in the verdict of the first instance loss that one of the claims they make is quite ridiculous because it pertains to Mayal Shanti, who is, as they claim, a member of their working committee, at that moment at least. So here you can see point 64. One more thing, section 20 of the Act requires the composition of the working committee to comprise of 7 members. In this case, one of the members, by name Mayal Shanti, has been asked to leave India by the authorities. The court is unaware of the status of those proceedings and the status of the aforesaid individual to continue residing in India. So at the time that this verdict came out, Mayal was appealing the decision that he was cut his visa got cancelled and he needed to leave India. And at that moment he was still appealing it, but by now, we're a few years later, obviously it's clear Mayal doesn't come back to India. He's been asked to leave India. He lives in France back or in Europe or whatever, I don't care. But so he cannot come back to stay in Auroville. So the court continues, the judge continues in point 65, assuming that his status remains under a cloud, his name would not be included in the register of residence, which it isn't, obviously. He is not in the register of residence because he is not allowed to reside in India, let alone in Auroville. So leaving the petitioner one short of the sanctioned statutory strength. In such an event, the petitioner can hardly pursue this challenge as its own status as a working committee is in peril. So Hemant claimed, I'm speaking for the RA working committee, we are the only real working committee. The other ones are frauds and fakes, and you need to just tell the whole world that these people can't use the name working committee and should not be allowed anywhere near an office. So here the judge clearly stated, well, how can you challenge that group which was constituted according to all the legal documents and your own procedures even? How can you claim that while your own group that you claim doesn't even has a member that is not even allowed to live in India? So yeah, that whole case fell apart, and now Vali has appealed it, and that is pending. We'll see when that comes out. So okay, the TDC, the Town Development Council, was equally challenged in court, and that's a complete and utter train wreck. They have attacked 3 documents, an office order appointing members that was older, a newer office order appointing members, and the standing order that the governing board has issued, which redefines what the TDC is and how it is created. So it is a body under the governing board, and the governing board can define it any way it wants, obviously. If I create something, it's my creation. I can create it any way I like. So that was attacked by Natasha in, she went to the Madras High Court in appeal, then to the Supreme Court. It all fell apart, everything. Even she got fined 50,000 rupees for being frivolous in her demands because she has no leg to stand on. And I mean, it's they, in fact, they have no leg to stand on. So this whole thing isn't happening. They have now that special case going and trying to accuse the Supreme Court of partiality or something, or gross misconduct or something of the sort. It's very strange. Anyway, that TDC thing is a complete train wreck and has been vindicated in court. Now the FAMC has also been challenged in court, and that went even worse. That went so badly that Namrita Gauthier, who had filed the case, and her team, of course, of backers and the whole King and Queen Club, they had withdrawn that case because the loss they were going to have would have been so bad that there would have been a verdict with all kinds of words and sentences in it that they absolutely didn't want to see or hear. So they decided to withdraw by themselves to avoid a very shameful loss. So all of these groups have been, I mean, these three main groups have been challenged in court, and it doesn't stand up what they claim. They don't have the law on their side. So what on earth is the point? And since they have no power at all to decide anything, anybody can rationally has to ask, but why are you having these parallel groups? What's the point of all of this? And obviously there is nothing really that can be said that makes sense. And so the only thing I can think of that why they are keeping these groups is because they have that kind of dream idea delusion in their head that one day there's going to be a savior that comes and saves them here. There's going to be some kind of a judge or a minister or a God knows what, someone in high power who will come and say, Auroville, this has been a very bad experience. The past 5 years were horrible, or 10 years by the time, God knows. I mean, so far it's almost 5 years. So the past 5 years have been horrible. It was an extreme misconduct of our side or something, you know. We're gonna just wipe the slate clean and pretend it never happened. We're just gonna tie up today to 2021. Woof. And so they want to have some kind of a continuity between these 2 points, so that if one day someone says, okay, what, that new governing board, that new secretary, we just scrap it all. Waste paper, we don't want to know what happened, we have no clue. We'll pretend that whatever happened in between on your side, whatever you did, is the only legal thing that happened. We acknowledge everything that happened, and so all of your members are now the official members, and all of your decisions are the official decisions, and they need to be implemented. That's the only reason I can come up with for them to do this, because it's completely meaningless and totally insane otherwise. So to have some kind of a continuity with 2021, which I'm really sorry to say, that whole pipe dream of that big savior that's going to come and vindicate, and it's never going to happen, obviously. It's in a different dimension, that all that kind of stuff. So what is going on is that legally it has been proven in court over and over and over again that the governing board working groups, the foundation working groups, are the only legal groups. They have the legal right to decide and implement these things, and we are building Mother Auroville and Mother City. Jai Ma, Jai Hind.